Anna, welcome to the show. So glad to have you.
Great. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Thanks for joining us today.
So Anna, you've been with us with Red Barn for about 9 months. And Kevin and I had the pleasure of hanging out with you and Rick 2 weeks ago down there in Florida. Saw all the different projects you have going on. And we knew you had an interesting story, but I think after we spent some time with you, I don't think we realized to the extent how interesting your story is. And we were like, you know what? We got to get Anna on the podcast. So I'd love for you to maybe just talk for a minute about kind of what you've been doing, sort of what your business has looked like for the last several years before you kind of hooked up with us. And we'd love to talk about how that plays into what you're doing now.
Okay, so I started out as single mom and homeless at one point in time, came back from that. And when I met my husband, my daughter was 2 years old and he has raised her as his own. And we have another child together. So they are now 30 and 23 years old, 24. Sorry, Jesse just turned 24. And so they're out of the house. But Rick and I had a construction company for about 30 years, ATS Studios, and we took it to a level where we could sell that off about a year and a half ago. And we're still doing a little bit of our, time that we've got to do with the people who bought our company. But we decided that in the, next stage of our 5 lives that we've had with multiple businesses, that we wanted to be Red Barn franchisors, or franchisees, I should say. And so we started off probably last fall, making some phone calls, trying to make some contacts, trying to get our leads started. But we started from Maryland. That's and right. Our territory is in Florida. So not that we like to complicate our lives any more than what they already are. But we know that we want to be in Florida. I did have some illnesses in the last year from toxic overload, and my doctors are in Florida. So I felt like being in Florida was really a better place for me to heal as well. So in the last 3 months, we've bought 3 homes and we've got 2 more under contract. I've got another one that just contacted me that wants to go to settlement at the end of July. So we could potentially have 3 more homes here in the next 3 months. And
you guys are so busy. It's awesome. Well, and you've still got your foot in the door still with the old business, which
yeah,
you guys are juggling a lot right now.
The old business wasn't just construction. I mean, come on, you guys worked in the White House, right? I mean, you guys
we've worked in the White House, the old executive office building, most of the Congress office buildings, multiple National Park Service projects. We also have done, like crazy top secret projects where, I'd have to kill you if I told you where I was at. And on top of it, one of the highlights of my career was being nominated and inducted into the Washington Building Congress Craftsman Hall of Fame. And so with that being said, I have 21 craftsmanship awards. I am the youngest inductee into the Hall of Fame, and I am the only woman to date in the Craftsman Hall of Fame. And I have more awards than any other inductee. So I broke the glass ceiling and kept going.
That's incredible.
We have said that we have some phenomenal people in Red Barn, like the quality of people. But Anna, you set the bar pretty high for everyone else.
That's what I like to do, right? I started out all the way at the bottom, right? Sleeping in my car because I had no place to go. Didn't know where the next bag of diapers were coming from, the formula. Somebody at my church one day put a pack of diapers in the front seat because they knew I was out of diapers while I was in church. So,
and one of the things, that I loved when we were, Ken and I both talked about it when we came and visited you guys, is just how creative you are. And I imagine that creativity helped you when you were homeless, when you were working in the White House, and now when you're flipping houses. I mean, that's just a skill set you bring with you. That's just part of who you are.
Right. Well, I love going to secondhand stores. And I think what you guys got to experience when you came down to visit is my fascination with Facebook Marketplace. And I went shopping with my husband. We went out, we did 4 truckloads of plants, just not only for the property that we just bought that we're in, but also for the other 2 that we're in the process of flipping. I spent $390 total. We went to 4 different locations and literally 4 truckloads of plants, and beautiful plants, big, huge lilies and bromeliads and plumeria. And I mean, these plants would have cost me, I kind of did the math. Some of the lilies I got for $25 a piece, they would be probably about $250 to $300 a piece if I would have gone to the nursery.
Oh my
And the
God.
plumeria would have probably been about $200 for one of the 5-foot tall plumerias that I got. And that's just a couple of the items. The bromeliads, definitely a small bromeliad at Home Depot cost you about $40. I got huge bromeliads for $3 a piece.
Oh my gosh. So pro tip for the day, if you need plants, rather than going to the nursery, get on Facebook Marketplace first. Is that a Florida thing, or you think that's like anywhere you could do that?
I think you could probably do it just about anywhere, but it's definitely a huge Florida thing. What I found out are the native Floridians, they see all these people coming into Florida and they would rather, your avid gardeners, they get starts off their plants and they put them in pots. And these were the ladies we were meeting throughout the day, even one gentleman. And they like to educate new Floridians with native plants instead of introducing plants that are, invasive.
Mm.
So I actually got a huge education on invasive plants and native plants while we were going out that day. So, and on top of it, think about all the people that I met. Now they know that we are property investors. They'll be on the lookout for us for properties even in their own neighborhood. We got to travel into neighborhoods that I probably wouldn't have even known were there unless we went out that day looking for all these plants and going to all these places. So we met some really great contacts. And some of these ladies are like, yeah, we do this all the time. Whenever you need more plants for your other properties, just come back.
Wow.
And when you buy in bulk, they give you a better deal. I don't even know how I could get a better deal than what I got. But I mean, yeah, they're willing to give us better deals if we continue to come back.
Well, and it wasn't just plants. I mean, in walking some of these projects of yours, we could tell that in every nook and cranny, you were finding ways to save money, not cut corners because your work is impeccable, but to save money. I mean, I remember the border trim, when you were pulling off a tile piece, and taking the pieces off. Maybe talk about that for a sec.
Yeah, so I did a coffee bar in our first flip and it needed, like, let's call it a pencil border. Well, I went to the tile store and all the pencil borders were $5, $6, $7 a piece. And they only go, you guys know, like they go like 5 inches.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would have needed probably, I'm going to say about 40 pieces of pencil to go around times 6.
Mm-hmm.
What I did was I found a herringbone pattern that was exactly the width. Each piece was exactly the width of the border that I needed. I only used 2 squares,
right.
two 1-foot squares. I actually got to return the third one. I bought 3 and they were only $15 a square foot. So for $30 total, I did that entire border.
That's incredible.
And I didn't even have to use a tile saw. Like literally, I took a razor blade, cut the mesh backing, and just placed it around.
Yeah. That's amazing. And it's like you're doing that everywhere. Like walking the flip, you're finding ways to create really cool effects and aesthetics. And you're able to do that just using the creativity. You told us about a story that I thought was really interesting. And I think it speaks to what you've brought into the single family space on one of your projects in DC, where there was an issue trying to match the tile. Maybe that story to me is very indicative of the skills that you've brought now to Red Barn into flipping houses. Do you remember the story I'm talking about, where It was hard to find
We're-
that. You couldn't find the tile, and then eventually you just had to make
It was
the
that
tile.
it was that special sealing. It was the particular sealing, and you actually had to fire the tiles yourself.
Oh, the Gustafino tile ceiling. Yes, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
I can't
So
believe
yes,
Tim didn't remember Gustafino. I mean,
Yeah,
obviously,
Yeah,
it's
okay.
Gustafino.
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 It's the
Um,
Gustafino. Yeah, that's what it was.
So Gustafino is a family who they owned a tile company and a masonry company in New York back in the early 1900s. So turn of the century. And so if you go into Union Station, either any of them, in New York, in DC, you'll see these vaulted ceilings that are made with tile. And
Mhm.
those, and they're also in the Museum of Natural History. I mean, they're everywhere. They're gorgeous. So we were doing the Carnegie Library, and in the basement, the Gustafino tile ceiling had been painted over multiple times. I'm going to say probably 7 or 8 layers of paint, because there was a lot of water intrusion in the basement. But these vaulted ceilings are actually structural. So they hold the structure in place. We needed about 120 of these tiles because they were either broken, old mechanical had been drilled through them, or they were just missing. And so once we stripped all the layers of paint and started redoing all the mortar, because the joints in between these tiles are proud because they actually hold the tiles in place. So the only way to replace these tiles was to get a hold of a kiln who still specializes in matching these. But it was gonna cost, I think it was gonna cost about, at a minimum, $40,000. And I think they wouldn't let us order one pallet. We had to order 2. So it was gonna be like $60,000 to order tiles. And it was gonna be like a 6-month lead time. We didn't have either. We didn't have the budget to do that, and we certainly didn't have 6 months. So I had my plaster guys harvest one of the tiles. We made 10 molds, just like we would make a mold for a cornice or for a medallion, a historic plaster. And we came up with a vermiculite mix, which was a lightweight mix, and some sand, a special colored sand, because we were trying to match that tile exactly. And we poured out 3 different samples, and they loved it. So we made these we didn't have to fire them, right? They didn't have to go through a kiln. We just poured them into these molds, and they look identical to the Gustafino tile ceilings. And we were able to make 120 of them instead of 2 full pallets of them. And then we faux finished them because we weren't able to get all the mold out of these tiles. So some areas were a little heavier than others. So we made the lightest color and then went in and faux finished them depending on where they landed in the ceiling. And it's so seamless right now. You couldn't go in there today and look in that ceiling and find the new tiles versus the original existing Gustafino tiles.
That's great. And this is in the Carnegie Library, right?
This is in the Carnegie Library in DC. Yes. It's actually the Apple Store now. It's the most expensive Apple Store that there's no parking. It's
Really?
there's not one parking space.
Now, you got to highlight here. So you're in the Carnegie Library working in DC, high end, right? Tiles on ceiling. And then we're with you, maybe a week and a half ago. And we're in a house that's completely, it's a small, it was a 2-bedroom, trashed out house. I mean, you're talking about extremes.
It's going to be a 3-bedroom now.
When you're done.
It's a 3-bedroom. That's right. I told her, make that sucker a 3-bedroom.
Wait, but talk about extremes.
And the pool looked like a toxic waste,
oh my gosh,
dumping area.
Yeah. Hadn't it been a hoarder home at one point? I mean, it's crazy the extremes that you're working in, but you bring the same passion.
Well, yeah, because it's within me, right? You can't change the grain of a wood, right? It's just who I am. It's definitely ingrained within me to operate at this capacity. It doesn't matter what it is. So, our goal is to turn over a home that's going to be a quality home that somebody's not going to have to be able to do anything to for at least the first 5 years that they're in the house. I mean, if we find something wrong with it, we're going to fix it.
Yeah. What's that been like, that transition though, from running a construction company, where you've got a client, to now negotiating properties that you're going to buy and own, and then really you're your own client, you're doing your own design work. What's that been like for you, making that transition?
It's been pretty seamless because I've had to negotiate multi-million-dollar deals all the time. I mean,
It's
it's
true.
not, I mean, you just can't leave money on the table, right?
Well, we were commenting on what a good negotiator, because you were telling us these deals that you, like, literally getting people to pay for removing their own trash. I'm like, how are you negotiating?
Oh yeah, the cabinets are gone, and I didn't have to pay to have the cabinets removed at the trash house.
Well, you had them pay for the dumpster. They were the labor to clean the house out.
Yep.
You had the neighbors take out the cabinets
Yes.
for you. All
Yeah,
I
so
mean, it was
right, so we had them rent back the first month. I ordered the dumpster, they fill it up, and they're paying to have it sent to the dump. So yeah, I gave them the bill for it.
That's amazing. Like, you literally are just negotiating the pants off these people. And I guess that makes sense. I mean, you've been negotiating multi-million-dollar deals in DC for these different locations. And so you bring that negotiating skill as well as your craftsman skill to this trade. I mean, I understand how it's been a seamless transition. If anything, it probably feels like you went from the big leagues to the little leagues a little bit.
I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe a little bit, but it's still not little leagues. I mean, we're talking big dollars here, right? Look at the kind of money we're going to be able to make on the first house.
True. Yeah.
Right? It's still big money.
The money's big. Yeah. I guess you're going from these big national monuments and buildings to single family houses, and maybe people that aren't quite as savvy negotiators.
Right.
Yeah. The profit potential.
I used to say the only residential job that I would ever do is the White House, but now I can't say that anymore. Yeah, because I would have people that would beg me to come to their house and do work for them, and I was like, no, we don't do residential.
Yeah.
But this is different, right? I'm not really working for a residential client, right? We're working for ourselves.
That's right.
And I actually told my husband, I said, that's probably the only way I would go back to something like this is I cannot answer to the everyday residential client anymore. It's a caliber of work that I probably don't have the patience for anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Being a GC and doing home renovation is very hard. It is not easy to renovate for an average client, especially while they're living in the home. It's so much easier to do it when you just own the home yourself and you pick and choose, and I
am the client, right?
That's
I'm picking it for myself. And if I'm not happy with it, then it gets fixed. It's, a person who lives in a house, and this is the way I've always been able to explain it to people, is when it's a commercial job, right? There's a qualification for your punch list, right? Like they're supposed to stand, 4 foot away from a wall or 5 foot away from a wall. Can you see any damage? And then it gets fixed. I mean, I have had residential clients on their hands and knees crawling around, checking out like nail holes and baseboards 2 inches from it, running their fingers across it. That would never happen in commercial construction.
Right.
Ever. And they want you to come back and fix it. And I'm like, I had one guy literally underneath his dishwasher, the base, that little kick.
Yeah.
Because we used to do all these high-end Clive Christian faux finished European cabinets. And he was on his hands and knees underneath there and looking up underneath it. And there was one little tiny corner that the paint didn't get all the way in there. And I look over him and I go, wow, your guests are going to look really funny on their hands and knees looking at this kitchen. I mean, it was absurd.
Yeah.
It was absurd. You want me to get down on my hands and knees and fix this tiny little corner that not even a mouse could see that?
Yeah, that's crazy.
But I was trying to help him understand how absurd he was.
Yeah.
Like, your guests are not going to be crawling around on their hands and knees. They're going to walk in this kitchen, beautiful, and nobody's on their hands and knees, just you.
Yeah. Sometimes the expectations are just ridiculous. It is a hard business to be in, no doubt.
And listen, they were spending a lot of money. They were probably spending $300,000. That was the price point for these Clive Christian cabinets, these European cabinets.
Oh my gosh.
And so, yeah, I get it. But that's the thing, is it came out of their own personal bank account. When you're doing commercial work, it's coming from a bank, right? That's financing that project.
Right.
And so it's just different.
Yeah.
When you're cutting that check
versus
out
when you're flipping a house, it's coming out of your bank account, right? I mean,
exactly. So I need to make it to my standards.
That's right.
So talk to us for a little bit about some of the houses you've got going right now and what you're seeing in terms of profit potential.
So the first house, we bought it for $260. We're being told that we're going to be able to go on the market at $400. And so we've invested, let's call it 55,000 when it's said and done.
Nice.
So it's going to be what, like 80,000?
Yep.
In profit.
Gross. Yeah. And that's the first one out of the gates. I mean, that's you starting to get leads, working deals, first pop out of it, you get 80K gross.
Right. And then the other one that you guys walked through, that is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. We're going to make it a 3-2, has a pool. We bought it for $210. And I haven't run the comp yet on the 3-2, but I believe we were going to be able to at least make 40 grand on that. But I think we might turn that into a rental now. Because it's probably going to, I mean, it's so close to the beach, right? Like it's an easy rental. And I may have already found a renter when we went out to eat the other night. There's a waitress a bartender at one of the Kyle G restaurants that needs a place to move into.
Well, that speaks to the other quality that we noticed about you guys right out of the gates is you've done a really good job of coming to Florida and then just networking, like just getting to know people, handing out business cards. It's like you said, when you're looking at plants, all those people know what you do now. And networking really is the name of the game in this space. The more people you meet and talk to, the more opportunities present themselves.
You are not going to meet anybody if you hide in your house. You have to get out. You have to go do stuff. Get on your boat. Go to the sandbar. Meet some people. Get out to your local restaurants. And who meets the most people are your bartenders. They meet everybody. They know everybody.
True. Get
to know them. Yeah. They can help you maneuver around. They know everyone. Or your hairdresser, or anybody that you can be out and, like I said, just Facebook Marketplace, going out and buying stuff or selling stuff. Mm-hmm. What if you have stuff from your houses that you just want to sell and get rid of, and then you have people coming to that place to pick it up? Then you're also saying, hey, this is what I do. Do you know anybody who's trying to sell a house or buy a house? Because this is going to be on the market soon.
Yep.
We talk a lot about networking, but I don't know, Ken, that we've ever thought of hairdressers or bartenders. That's good advice.
It really is. They're talking to people all day long.
Yeah. All day long. They absolutely, look, that's a poor man's psychologist, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
So there are people going in there talking to them every single day and dumping on their bartender.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's usually single businessmen. I'm stereotyping a little bit, but it's true. Mm-hmm. And they're just hanging out because they got no other place to go.
Right. And you got, it sounds like a couple more houses under contract. You guys are starting to catch some momentum, which, takes a few months to working leads and getting a deal under. And now I feel like you guys are starting to experience that, some momentum. You're sort of catching your stride. You guys feel that?
Yes, absolutely. And all the time, we've got a couple of agents now that we've been working with, and they're constantly, in fact, we went and looked at another house before we pulled out of Florida the other night to go walk through. And I don't think it's one that we're going to buy, but the thing is that's not the point. They're calling us to come walk through it before it even hit the market.
Right.
Huge. So that's huge. And they will continue to do that.
Yeah.
They will continue to do that. So
because you've networked, you've got your name out there. They know who you are now.
Well, we've trained them to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's setting the expectations. It's talking with them, letting them know what you want, what you're looking for. And we've trained them to continue to send us stuff and keep doing it until it's the right fit.
Right. Yep. So somebody's listening to this and they're thinking, hey, should I leave my job? Should I get into flipping houses? What about owning houses and renting houses and wholesaling houses? and they're listening to you and they're someone inspired, what sort of advice do you give to somebody who's thinking about taking that plunge?
Well, first of all, don't ever quit your job until you've put enough money in the bank to make sure that you're going to pay all your bills on time every single month, right? Because
Yep.
having good credit is key here.
Yep.
You must have good credit, and you must have some equity and capital, and you need to be comfortable before you just go dive into the swimming pool, or the water's going to be drained out, right? That wouldn't be a lot of fun to dive into the deep end. And being smart, right? Being calculative on everything that you do. Even though it seems like we just rushed into it, we really didn't. We put a lot of thought into Red Barn, doing a franchise. We didn't want to reinvent the wheel. That was another big one. I think that we would have had the skills to do this without Red Barn? Sure. But Red Barn has a lot of things in place that we didn't have to invent or figure out. And then we could get right to the meat of it.
Yep.
Instead of trying to figure out, the lead generation, figuring out, the structure, having a team in place for when we needed advice, because there were certainly things that we didn't know how to do.
Right.
That you guys have helped steer us in the right direction and given us the advice that we needed at the time that we needed it. So, but being savvy just adds to, the stew, the perfect pot of stew.
Well, you definitely brought all sorts of intangible skills and tangible skills into the franchise. Some people are going to listen to this and be like, well, I've never renovated a house. I don't have all these skills. Well, you can hire those out. Obviously, you having those skills, you can learn to negotiate. You came to the table already having some of those skills. And so it's probably accelerated your success a little bit just because of that. But you don't necessarily have to have all that, because in an ideal world, we've built that into the franchise where people, they come in, they get the training, they get the coaching, they get what they need to fill in some of those blanks.
Right. And it's hard. If you're not a people person, I would say that this would be a tough business, but I don't think somebody that isn't a people person would want to get into doing something like this. They're not going to reach out and want to be, a Red Barn home buyer.
That's a great, I want to stop you there, because you are 100% right that this is absolutely a people business. And it is all about being able to talk, because you're talking to potential motivated sellers, right? All the time. You're having these conversations, and that's how you get the inventory. I feel like a lot of people watch one of our shows, like on HGTV, and they're like, man, I would be so good at fixing that house. Well, the thing that they never show on TV is all the work that went into getting the house.
Right.
And that's all relationship. It's a lot of work. That's where the work. I mean,
made. The first one that you guys got to see that you loved, the mailbox and the front facade, I worked with Peter, the homeowner, for a while, and he went back and forth on whether or not he was going to sell to me. But he was a disgruntled landlord. His renters had trashed his house. They were breeding dogs out of the garage, had dogs tied up to the trees in the backyard. The neighbors hated them. I mean, it was just, and he was trying to fix the house up, and he was going to put it back out for rent. And but he's already had 2 heart attacks. His dad's like at 87 years old, and and he's in his late 60s, and he just was like, and I just kept talking to him. He even called me for advice on a contractor that could help him raise the concrete on the front porch. I gave it to him. And then a week later, he goes, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. I'm selling you the house. But I talked to him for 4 months, and I was even willing to give him advice on a contractor to help him fix the house, because I knew that he had 3 other homes that he potentially wants to sell us. And so why would I burn that bridge? I just gave him the lead.
Yeah.
And then a week later, okay, Anna, house is yours.
Yeah. So good. You built the relationship with him over a 4-month period. He trusted you at that point in time. You did right by him, because you were like, look, I don't have to buy it. Let me help you, fix it. And he still came back to you and sold the house. And now you got the potential to buy 3 more houses from him potentially.
Yes.
That is 100% the name of the game.
And he wants to use the money that we gave him to also reinvest back into us.
Are you serious? Now you've got a private lender. You got a private lender from a seller.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
amazing.
Because he's like, now what do I do with all this money?
That's amazing.
He doesn't know what to do with it.
And you're like, invest with us. You can be our
There you
lender.
go.
Yeah, we'll give you 12% or whatever. Yeah.
I mean,
Anna wouldn't give him 12%.
No, she would. She'd have none at 8%.
Knocking it down.
100%.
oh no,
I'll
no,
give you
12%.
4 points.
What? 8.
And you can
9.
come take out my trash if you want. Sign me up.
Yeah, I'll let you take the trash out.
I'll let you take the trash
I'll let you
out.
take
Right.
out my trash. Yeah,
It's all in how you word it.
it is. Yeah. So good.
And okay, you've done so many different things, and you guys are off to the races with Red Barn. I'm kidding. When we talk to members, success looks different for everyone, right? When they, whether
Sure.
it's entering a house or they're building their business, what does success look like for you? Like for you and Rick, when you guys, whether it's entering a house or you think about building up your Red Barn franchise, what's success? Like for you, feels like, man, we're successful.
I mean, successful would be finishing out, our commitment with the construction company that bought us out, being in Florida full time. And, one of our goals is catching 50% of what we eat. I don't think we told you that, which is why we have our fishing boat. But the water, we love being on the water, and having the kind of income through Red Barn allows us to do that, and still having this people. I have to be around people. People is definitely a part of who I am. So, and helping people. I mean, people have helped me along the way, and so giving back and being able to help people. And I do feel like that the people that we have bought from so far, we're helping them in some way, shape, or form. With Peter, we helped him because he could no longer be a landlord anymore. It was just stressing him out so bad, and he needs to focus on taking care of his dad. So financially, we were able to give him the money that he needed to be able to do that. And as he releases his other properties, we'll help him out with those too. We'll take those off his hands. The couple that we just bought the other house from, they were in early pre-foreclosure. They were getting notices from the bank. And if they would have stayed there any longer, they would have lost everything. They would have had nothing left, right? Because it just racks up. And then, when they come in and they sell it at foreclosure, he may not have even gotten the 210,000, right? It might have even been worse by then. And, he at least was able to walk away, I think, with like 60 grand. And they bought a motor home, and they're going to go and off in the sunset and motor home around. And, but his wife was in a wheelchair, and, so what were they going to do? They couldn't, it wasn't like she was going to go out and get a job. I mean, she's a diabetic. She's, actively kind of, she's ailing. I mean, she's disabled at this point in time. And at this point in their life, this was the best thing for them. And we were able to help facilitate a better way of life for them, where they don't have these creditors calling them all the time. So we're trying to change that negative connotation of we'll buy your house with cash, where I think that can be kind of a negative thing. We're trying to turn it into a positive thing, and create a repeat client, with like our first homeowner that we bought from. He will most likely and absolutely should end up being a repeat client for us.
I love it. And the way you guys are operating is so aligned with Red Barn as well, in terms of always structuring it as a win-win, always operating with integrity. Again, the goal is to help these people where then when they sell the house to you, they feel really good about it. Like this was the best thing for is exactly what you guys are doing. And you guys are having so much success. We're just thrilled that you're a part of the organization. You guys are such an asset. And I have a feeling you're going to be on the podcast teaching or internally inside of Red Barn teaching others how to do it the Anna way in the very near term, because you're doing such a good job.
You'll have to talk with Rick about the name of that.
The Anna way. And sometimes
Anna way.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe it'll be the Rick and Anna way.
Right?
We'll see.
He's the wind beneath my wings, right? There you go.
Well, Anna, thanks so much for coming on today, spending some time with us. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Next time we get down to Florida, we're going out on the boat with you.
There you go.
You have to 100%. Absolutely have to. It's and sandbar and catch some snook, which is like the best eating. I don't if you never had a snook, then you haven't had fish. I mean, this stuff is amazing.
Man.
I
It's
snuck out of the
addicting.
house a few times, but that's about it.
Yes. Sometimes I creep down in the refrigerator in the middle of the night and I snook some food. I don't think that's the same thing. It's a different kind. It's a different snook, I think.
It's a different type of snook. But I think the house right next door to us is going to end up being for sale.
Oh wow.
Ah.
Oh wow.
The other beach that was overgrown right next to us.
Yeah.
right.
Oh my gosh.
You don't you guys need a Florida office?
We need a Florida office. There you
That
go.
would be another Florida office, maybe.
That's right.
We got to cover from coast to coast.
That's
Yep.
right.
Yep. Absolutely. Anna, well, we appreciate it. Thanks so
Yep.
much for your time. We really appreciate it.
You got it. You
All
got
right.
it. Thanks.
Take care.
Thanks.